Sherry too?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
So Jill from our team is going to try to make it, but if she had a couple other conflicts, she wasn't sure. So I say we get started, and if she makes it, she makes it, and if not, I gotcha. There she is.
Really loud, but is it too loud?
Is it 11?
I can do that.
Yes.
I'm recording.
Okay. Can I start? All right, bring this meeting to order. I'm Candace Payne. I'm chair of the Lewis and Clark County Commission this year. To my left is Tom Rolfe, who is vice chair of the Lewis and Clark County Commission. And Roger Balz, our CAO. To my right is Mr. Andy Kunshausen, also known as the Klutz, who is the county commissioner, and Frank Cornwell, who is our CFO. CFO. Oh, I knew that. And Amy Reeves, who is the treasurer and clerk and recorder and basically boss of the world when it comes to money. We have first on the agenda is an explanation of annual comprehensive financial report process. And I hope somebody knows who's going to give that. Talk.
Want me to take it away?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this over to Jamie. She's got a little presentation for us.
Okay, would Jamie's full name, please?
My name is Jamie Fay. Last name is F as in Frank, AY. So I have a presentation, but I do not see the share option. Oh, there it is. I'm going to it looks like sharing's not turned on, so I'm going to send the request unless everybody has it, but it doesn't look like we've got computers in there. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going to share my presentation for you. Let me know, give me a thumbs up if you can see it, just to make sure. Yep, okay, we're good. All right, well, good morning. I think it's still morning. Happy Monday. My name is Jamie Fay. I'm an audit partner with Eide Bailly. We also have Jill on the call with us. She is the audit manager on the job. She was really in the nuts and bolts of working really closely with Sherry and her team to get the audit done. So today we just have a real quick high level presentation to talk through. We are not going to talk about every 222 pages of the ACFR. We're going to kind of pull out some of the information that we find is really useful to our governance committees and just talk through some of that. If you have questions, feel free to stop me. So far, I've been able to hear everybody on there, so hopefully we've got a smooth presentation process here. All right, so just for a little bit of background, since this is our first year working with Lewis and Clark County, Eide Bailly, we are a top 20 CPA and consulting firm founded in 1917. We have over 300 dedicated professionals to the government industry, over 1,300 government clients. All of that to say, I only speak GASB, so the only clients I work on are government. So we're very specialized, and it's a great niche to be in, because if I have something that comes up here, I've got another client I can probably reference or another professional within the firm. So that's been a great resource to have as well. So now talking about the audit, that's what everybody wants to hear about. I like to just start off and give a little high level overview about what we do during the financial statement audit, because I think the word audit gets thrown around a lot. So from our perspective, when we come in and do a year-end financial statement audit, it is designed to obtain reasonable, not absolute assurance of whether the financial statements are materially accurate or not. So we come in, we do a number of procedures, we test a handful of transactions from expenditures, some revenues, we recalculate some things, and we make sure they're reasonable. We do not recalculate things to the penny. We do not look at every single transaction. That would not be a very good use of our time, or quite frankly, the county's dollars either. So through those procedures, we test enough that we can get comfort that the financial statements are materially accurate. So through our process, then we give an opinion. So the audit results The county received a clean opinion. It's called an unmodified opinion, but a lot of times in the kind of language you'll hear is called clean. That's what you want. That's what you've received in the past. That says we didn't find anything that was material and misstated in the annual comprehensive financial report. Your financial statements are fairly presented. Through that process, if there are things that come up, we can have a combo of a clean audit opinion and some findings. So we'll talk about if there are any findings in a couple slides, but the clean audit opinion is great. That's what you want. The second part of our audit opinion is when a government spends more than $750,000 of federal money in a year, they're required to have this separate audit. It's called, sometimes it'll be called a single audit. That's through the Federal Audit Clearinghouse that we have to report to. So the county expended approximately $9.3 million in federal awards. So we did do this separate single audit. What that is it's really looking at, based on a coverage map and kind of some risk factors, we pick out a couple programs to get to our coverage. So this year we picked coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and then the local assistance and tribal consistency fund. Both of those are COVID-19 dollars for those programs. So we tested about 5.6 million of coverage for those dollars were the two programs there out of that 9.3. So we tested a coverage of about 60% of the programs. Again, in those programs, we did not test 100% of the activity in there, but we tested things like transactions to make sure that they were reasonable, allowable, make sure the reports were done right, make sure there's approvals on things that should be approved, and kind of all of those. So with that, the findings. So this is a great slide. I'm excited to present this slide. This says there are no findings that we reported. So financial statements, no reported findings, which is the full ACFR. That's, looking at the general fund and kind of the normal operations of the county. Then those federal awards, that single audit, no reported findings there. And then for Montana compliance, we do some state compliance work through the procedures that we need to do. Every state has kind of their own things that they want us to look at. So in Montana, we took a look at what they asked us to do and no reported findings there either. That doesn't mean when we were going through the audit that we didn't have questions that came up. What that means is we were able to work through and with Sherry's help and the help of her team, we were able to work through and say, oh, yep, this seems reasonable. That seems reasonable. Really nothing that we had to report, which is great news. That's what you want to see. So we'll talk a little bit about dollars, and then at the end, I'll kind of let you, if you want to go back or ask questions. But at this point, did you have any questions on kind of the overall audit process, kind of those overall findings, anything like that?
No.
Great.
Are there any?
Okay, so we'll talk about some numbers. I know that not everyone loves numbers as much as the accountant in the room, so I will keep it very high level, but I wanted to just share a little bit about what's been going on with the county. So when we talk about the year that we're looking at the year ended June 30, 2024. So this is the activity for the general fund for the year ended June 30, 2024. Very, very high level, you can see total revenues about 17 million, total expenditures about 14 million. Then there was some other activity in terms of transfers, which resulted in this bottom number of change in fund balance of about $120,000. That's a positive change. So increase the fund balance for the general fund to about 10.3 million. I know that the county also goes through a budget process. Revenues were about $1.6 million over budget, and expenditures were about $2.1 million under budget. Both of those we in the government world kind of deem to be conservative budgeting, meaning you got a little bit more than you budgeted and you spent a little bit less than you budgeted. That is what I see with most of my government clients across the country, just because some of these revenue sources are pretty inconsistent, or you're not quite sure what you're going to get and you want to make sure that you're safe there. So pretty consistent budgeting process from what I've seen across the country. So that big number, that $10.3 million number, that's fund balance. That's kind of the end of the day balance. We like to talk a little bit about this just so everybody understands. It does not mean you have $10.3 million in the bank. That's not a one-to-one. So positive fund balance, the reason that you want to have that is it contributes to a favorable bond rating if you're going to go out and take debt, which means a lower interest rate. It produces some investment income. And then third, and I would argue most importantly, it creates a little bit of a cushion if there's something unexpected like a global pandemic. So positive fund balance really is there for that purpose. Now that number is broken out into a few different categories. So we're not going to get into the details of them too much, except for to say there's a slide here. If you are wondering what these different buckets are, this is a really good place to look. That's kind of a little bit less accounting technical terms and kind of shares what these categories are. So they are non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. So we'll look at the numbers on the next page. The one I want to point out is restricted is really that is a number that is what it is. There's not a lot of flexibility of the county to be able to change and, kind of assign those dollars for something else. Those are dollars that you have gotten from somewhere. They are legally restricted to be used on a certain purpose. And so those are sitting waiting to be spent on those items. A lot of times you'll look at a government and the overall fund balance number looks really big. Once you take that restriction number out of there, it's a lot smaller, and those restricted dollars can't be just used for general operations of the county. So the numbers are here. This is a table that shows the last 10 years. There's not really a right or wrong answer here. This is just to show you where you are compared to where you've been. And a lot of times we'll see these numbers kind of trend up and down, depending on if you're saving for a project, if you've had a big project, if you've got economic things going on. So this is just to kind of break it down. So the top portion is just the general fund. And then this bottom portion is all of the other governmental funds lumped together. So that would be public safety, other grants funds, special assessment district funds, rural special improvement district debt, community development, those types of, or capital development, those types of funds. So those are all grouped into that bottom bucket. The other thing oh, go ahead.
Is your table bigger, Randy? Is that something you need to do? I can hardly see it and I'm sitting in the front row.
How about that?
Got rid of the participants.
Yeah, can you X that out?
Or minimize.
Yeah. Okay.
Much
Much better. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there is a copy of this that we did email in electronic format. So if you want to look at it another time, you can. And then this table came right out of the ACFR towards the end. One of the things that's nice about the ACFR is towards the end, there's a section called the statistical section. So if you're looking for some of this kind of past history of where have we been, where are we at, what are those kind of things that seem interesting or useful, these types of tables can be really helpful. So if you take that big document, go to that statistical section, that's probably the place that I would point people to if they're non-accounting readers and just kind of want to get a feel for it. That's a good place to start. All right, so the other thing, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger too for you. The other kind of piece besides talking about fund balance that I like to point out is the long-term debt, just because I think it's important that governments know where they're at with their debt. Some governments use their debt very regularly. Other governments have a strategy of really just having paid off debt and paying cash for things. So there's not a one size fits all when it comes to this strategy. The purpose here is just to show you what you do have. So you've got some general obligation bonds, some contracts, special assessment debt, so on and so forth, to the tune of about 15 million. So you can kind of see the breakdown there, and that is a decrease from last year. So you didn't take out any new large debt that would have increased more than what you had for payments. There is some increases in some of the categories, but the GO bond tends to be the big one when it comes to increases, and there weren't any new issuances in FY24 for that one. All right, so I'm going to zoom it back out and go to the next section. So now we're going to talk about the business type funds. So the business type funds are like the fairgrounds, the landfill, those types. These funds really have a purpose of operating like a business. So they really should be pretty self-sustaining and kind of do their own thing. And a lot of governments that I have, cities and counties, they operate these funds to be able to also fund some different general operations of the governments. So sometimes you see that, but really when it says business type, the purpose of a business type fund is really to be able to at least be self-sustaining. So the numbers for this one for the current year are, I've got this is straight out of the financial statement. So the major funds are the fairground and the county landfill, and then you've got some non-major funds that are lumped into a category as well. So we're going to just go to the total column. So total operating revenue is about 5.3 million. Operating expenses of about 5.2. So you did have an operating income just under 100,000. And then once you kind of factor in some of these non-operating items, you've got an increase in the net position of 428,000. Net position is the business type fund equivalent of fund balance from the general fund. So that's kind of what we've been talking about with fund balance. It's just called net position when it comes to business funds. So that's this number right down here, and that ends in the net position for the end of the year of about 17 million right there. And again, if you have questions or want additional details on any of these, it's all in the report. Happy to dig into anything, but trying to keep it a little higher level for you. So then looking at the debt for the business type funds, there's not much there. There is landfill and post-closure costs. So really that's an estimate of what is it going to cost us for the landfill to close that out as it sits today. And then compensated absences are just dollars that need to be paid out for employee benefits. That is a little bit of an estimate as well. There will be some changes coming in the next year for how compensated absences are reported. But for this year, it is reported exactly the same as it was last year. We did just do a net change here for ease of reporting purposes, but you see that compensated absences number there. So business long-term debt is pretty limited in the different things that are in there. And with that, that is all I have in terms of a formal presentation. Is there any questions for me before I wrap up with my last slide?
Not I.
Not I.
Let's go.
Well, the last thing that I wanted to just say is a huge appreciation to Sherry and her team. Anytime you switch auditors, it can be a little bit of an unknown. We definitely work through some things, and especially working in the digital world, we've been able to really move through this pretty smoothly, and a much appreciation to her and her team. I know that we come in when we do the audit and we kind of shake things up, but these guys have a full-time job anyways without the audit being there. So very much appreciate their willingness to help us and get through it. And we were able to, like I said, work through everything we had questions on. They were able to ask us questions. We were able to ask them questions. So a very good working relationship. And we very much appreciate being able to work with the county, and just want to sing their praises, because I don't think the accountants in a government get enough credit. So that is what I try to bring to the table.
Well said, Madam Chair. I completely agree. So thank you to you and Sherry and the team very much. It's good work. Always challenging. So appreciate this.
Amy, do you have anything you need to say?
Yes, I would like to. I'd like to thank Sherry and our accounting department for all the work that they did. I know Sherry, even though we had help this year with a new audit firm, Sherry's doing just as much work to come up with the same numbers, you know, the same information that she had to come up with last year. There's different formatting that's had to be done. And then with new auditors, we have a lot more demands, because when you have an auditor for years on end, they usually look at the same type of things, and you get pretty used to what you're providing them. Where this year, you know, their language of what they needed was completely different than what we've been used to in the past, just different terms that they might use, or different questions, things that we may have never been asked before. Some of the information they asked for is stuff that our system doesn't have readily available, or even able to gather that information. So I know that there was a lot of challenges for Sherry, especially doing this new format that we're doing with the audit now. And I think that with having no audit findings, I know there were some questions that we thought we might have some audit findings, and I know that Sherry was also able to be very active and work through that situation and explain what was, you know, what we see and how those types of things were affecting us, and was able to speak with ID Bailey and their people to explain what we were seeing, and they worked through those things. So that was very great to see, and to see a clean audit for having new auditors come in and look, I think is great, because when you have the same person doing it all the time, I think they get a little lax on the audit. So
They
I think
may,
it's very great, or they can.
they could, but
Yes.
they haven't.
So, and I also want to thank Ann and Carrie in our grants department. That single audit that was mentioned, that is huge for that also to be clean, and that shows how much dedication that her department has in helping us on the financial side. And then again, I think it's important to recognize our department financial people and all the accuracy and things that they are giving us. Because our accounting department, we are reporting what is given to us and we are directing them a lot of times and helping them get those transactions done. But without that collaborative effort between all our county departments and our finance, our accounting team, there would be, it would not be a clean audit. So thank you very much. And thank you for working so well with our departments this year.
Thank you, Amy. Frank, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure, I just to echo what Amy's said, I completely agree with the amount of work that goes into preparing the ACFR and then working with the auditors it can be quite a lot of work in the fall and the winter for that team. And I've been through it many times, and I can truly appreciate the work that they do, especially. And right now I feel like the accounting team has got a really good team, and we're really thankful for them and their expertise. And hopefully we can, this is the first year of this experiment, not preparing the ACFR, but also with new auditors, and considering, and then also the other thing I would also point out too is that Roger Nordahl, a long-term accountant, was huge asset.
And Lewis and Clark County.
Yeah, to Lewis and Clark.
He's an asset of ours.
Yep. And
even though he retired.
Fully
retired. He helped a little bit on the edges with Sherry, I know, to get her through some things, but I think this was fully Sherry for the first time, really, without the help of Roger. And I think that needs to be recognized. And so I'm really happy to see the result, and onward and upward for the next year.
Good job, Sherry.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Tom, Andy, Roger?
Madam Chair, I guess I'll just weigh in and add my thanks to Amy, Sherry, Frank, the whole finance team. This type of work doesn't occur by accident. These kind of results are the result of the professionalism and the attention to detail that they all pay day in and day out. So I very much appreciate it. Thank you all very much. It's a good result. Thank you.
Sherry, do you want to say anything, or are you?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for acknowledging the amount of time and effort that it really does take to prepare for audit. This is really, usually we would start rolling our audit schedules as soon as the prior year was over. And then really from July through December is audit season for us. And that's what the focus of our work is. But we've also been still working on the new finance system that we're bringing on, and several other kind of large projects with banking and everything too. So I just want to say thank you to my staff for doing everything that they've got to do on a daily basis and still being able to help with all of this. Again, I echo Amy's thanks to Ann and Carrie specifically on ARPA, because this is the third year in a row they've been audited on ARPA, and it's a big one. And then I also just want to say thanks to Jamie and Jill, because they've been really great to work with. As far as bringing in new auditors, we were all a little bit apprehensive about that. And we'd had the same auditors for over 20 years. And though we'd had changes in staffing and everything, the core had remained the same. So I didn't really know what to expect this year. Had kind of a hard time getting a good read on it, but of the things that did come up that they had questions on, I think that we worked really well through it. Jamie was able to even put me in touch with another government that helped me through the software subscriptions. There's some questions that arose in that were really challenging that just haven't come up before, and Jamie was able to connect me with some people that were really helpful in helping to make sure that our estimates were accurate on that too. So thank you very much to Jamie and Jill.
And if I may,
Amy?
I also want to thank Sherry and her team Sherry's been the forerunner on making sure that every new GASB that comes out that we're complying with, or sometimes even attempting to comply with before we even have to, you know, a year before or 2 years before, if we have the time to make sure that we have that time to ease into it, but and not just hit it at the very end due date. And that's been really helpful to us. And I know we worked with our past auditors on implementing new GASBs, and I know we'll be working with Jill's or Jamie's team to make sure that, you know, in the future we have the same relationship on implementing those GASBs. But without Sherry researching those and making sure everything is where it should be and we're reporting things correctly, it's ever changing, and it's not just one GASB a year, it's many. And that is a lot of effort to make sure that we're still in compliance, and I just want to thank her for that too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just for perspective on that, when I started with the county, we were just finishing implementing GASB 67 and 68, which were the pension statements, and we are up to 105 now. So that tells you the GASB's been coming at us fast and furious over the last few years, and there's been a lot of changes in the statements and a lot of new things that we've had to keep up on.
Okay. Jill, did you want to add anything?
Just a thank you to everyone. It was really, really great to work with the county, and I look forward to working with you all in the future as well.
Okay, thank you. As a county commissioner, and it's just only my 3rd year, but I'm amazed. We kind of take for granted that the numbers are correct and we're all heading in the right direction. And taking that kind of thing for granted is the road to purgatory. I know it is. So it is great. We've got people who pay attention to the detailed numbers, the GASB changes. So thank you for keeping us out of trouble. It certainly, I feel, and I'm sure Andy and Tom do too, that the buck stops with us. We were elected to, and Amy too, people count on us to know where their dollars go. And if we don't take care of it, we shouldn't be here. So thank you all as a team for helping us take care of this and making sense of it. Some of us are not numbers people, but we have a lot of help here to explain these things to us, and I'm very appreciative of your efforts. Are there any other questions? Seeing no questions, do we have any public comment? I see no public comment. Anything else to go to the order? In that case, we will adjourn. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I think
Okay. It's 11:30.
that's awesome.
Nailed it.
Thank